the question about why they're running, that's a huge question. It's a major question. Why is anybody not named Trump or DeSantis running for president of the United States? And why does it sound like Tony's at a theme park? That's a different story. Maybe I'll get to it. Guys, welcome to the show. Good to be with you. Presented by Americans for Prosperity. AmericansForProsperity.org. Economic liberty and free speech is where it's at. And free speech is one of the reasons that people run for president. You're 35 years of age. You're an American citizen. Boom. Or born in America. You have the chance. You have the opportunity. That's all you need. Now, someone might decide that you might need some qualifications. Someone might decide you might actually need a couple bucks behind you. But in the end, somebody who wants to run for president can run for president. It's just that simple, just that easy. There is nothing else that actually has to be done. The real question is, why are these guys doing it, of course? And we're clear. We're right. We are accurate. This race is a Trump-DeSantis race. Why is anybody else even thinking they can get in this race? What's the point? What's the issue? What are they trying to prove? Trying to prove is an interesting one. Is it that people like Senator Tim Scott and Ambassador Nikki Haley and former Vice President Pence and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie have something to prove? For Christie, he has to prove that this tough guy Trump ain't tougher than him. For Vice President Pence, he has to prove that his mission on this earth, is to actually be the guy that he always dreamed himself to be in the role of Reagan, that he is indeed touched and he is indeed given certain skill sets that lead to this moment. And this moment requires a man of faith. Is someone like Nikki Haley saying, I am going to break that glass ceiling. I'm going to be the one to do this. And I have to prove that I can. That my work as governor of South Carolina wasn't a fluke, and my work as ambassador to the United Nations under President Trump wasn't just doing his bidding. It was me knowing how to maneuver and work that system. Maybe, but who is seriously taking it all seriously? Now, I'm not saying that they don't have supporters. I'm arguing they do have supporters, and a fair amount of supporters at that. What I'm saying is, why would the rest of these people be running? Now, let me start with Vice President Pence. And this was part of his announcement video.
Every time our nation has produced leadership that has called upon this country to do hard things, the American people have always risen to the challenge. And we will again. We just need government as good as our people to do it. I believe in the American people, and I have faith. God is not done with America yet, and together we can bring this country back, and the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
It's everything you thought a Mike Pence video would be. Now, you know that I happen to like Vice President Pence quite a bit on a personal level. His career started in radio on WIBC, where I am now not only the morning host, but I host my syndicated midday show. I have had a good relationship with him. I have shared donuts with him. I have interviewed him in the OEOB. I have had time to speak with the man. I wouldn't call us friends. I would have had more conversations if there had been more opportunity to have the conversations. But I have said before, and I'm working on scheduling an interview now where I'm going to tell him, because I won't lie to anybody, I don't see his path and I don't see him winning. I see him as a guy who truly believes in this idea of servant leadership. You know, what Sunny Hostin said about Mike Pence is so pathetic and embarrassing. Her bigotry and her hate is overwhelming. Understand that Sunny Hostin of The View is one of the most hateful, vile people I have ever witnessed. And good for Alyssa Farah Griffin to finally learn that they never liked her. They never cared about her. She's there to be a human punching bag and say, yeah, well, Republicans are bad, but, and that's it. She doesn't know that Sunny Hostin and Joy Behar hate her. If Alyssa Farah Griffin fell down the stairs, Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin's first question would be, how are the stairs? They hate her. And she learned that today, and she learned that well today. to be sure, she learned that she's never, ever going to get a fair shake. She's never going to be able to be given a fair shake. And most importantly, that they don't care how vile or disgusting or despicable they are. When they say it, they actually believe they're good and decent and moral. And, oh, it's just so gross. Mike Pence is actually a decent guy. He is. There are things that he has done I disagree with, things he has said I have disagree with, connections he has that I disagree with. But is he a decent guy? He's a decent guy. Absolutely is. He's a believer in this idea of servant leadership. I've heard him discuss it before. And I've always believed that that servant leadership conversation leads to providing service to somebody else. Not himself being president, somebody else. That's where his natural default is. And I have said that if DeSantis wins, Mike Pence is going to be a world-class Secretary of State. Because he's never going to go off script. Something to know about Mike Pence. He will never, ever, ever deviate from the script. Let me give you a little bit of that from his announcement in Iowa.
Now, most Americans know me from my last assignment in the White House. What you may not know is I was also a congressman from Indiana for 12 years. I was a leader for House conservatives. We fought for life and liberty. I battled against big spenders in both political parties during those years, and most of them remember it. I was a governor in Indiana where we cut taxes, as you heard from Speaker Houston. We achieved record employment. We expanded educational choice, stood for the right to life and the freedom of religion. And as your vice president, I was proud to stand by President Donald Trump every single day when we made America great again.
That's exactly who he is. He's going to give you the resume, tell you what a strong conservative leader, and then he's going to say, Trump and I did great work, and I'm proud of it. He's never, ever not going to say that. And that's going to be very confusing because if he's trying to get the Trump voter, he must know that the Trump voter will not vote for him. Not the people who would reluctantly vote for Trump if Trump got the nomination. Those are I think, a pretty good part of the Republican base, or conservatives, if you will. But the people who are Trump acolytes are never voting for Mike Pence. They see him as a traitor. They see him as a guy who failed America. You should have sent it all back on January 6th. And as Pence will tell you, I didn't have that authority. And they'll say, of course you did. You just didn't want to do the work. And then the fight begins. They'll never vote for him. So even Pence's path is a very confusing one, because you have to believe that the path involves people who are disaffected with Trump, but don't think that DeSantis actually is strong enough, and you want somebody more seasoned. Well, wouldn't Chris Christie be the guy who's a little more seasoned? That's right, the former New Jersey governor who has spent the last years being on the panel there on This Week on ABC, thinking that somehow George Stephanopoulos is a decent guy, when, of course, he's not. A guy who contributed to the Clinton Global Initiative while reporting on the Clinton Global Initiative is not actually my idea of a good guy. But when it comes to giving a campaign speech, don't forget Chris Christie has skills.
And if your leaders are not willing to admit to you that they're fallible, that they make mistakes, that they hurt like you, that they bleed like you, and that they suffer disappointments and letdowns, beware. Beware of the leader in this country who you have handed leadership to, who has never made a mistake, who has never done anything wrong, who when something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, and who has never lost. I've lost. You people did that to me in 2016.
Never forget how good he is at that. How direct he can be, how focused he can be, how plain-spoken he can be, self-effacing. He can do it all. The problem is there are no followers. The entire philosophy of Chris Christie is, as opposed to other people who are afraid of Trump, I'm going to walk into every room, into every debate, into every place, and I'm going to punch Donald Trump in the face. over and 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 over. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what he's going to do. That's the everything. As a matter of fact, in that speech, he referred to the fact that Trump is the guy who shall not be named like Voldemort. Of course, referring to the Harry Potter books. He referred to President Trump as Voldemort. He is going scorched earth. Now, there has been a theory that what you have from Chris Christie is actually a stalking horse. That Chris Christie is in the race to flummox, upset, bother, get in the way of, try and take off his game Donald Trump for Ron DeSantis. I don't believe that's true. I don't think Chris Christie has it in him to do that for somebody else. Do I think he hates Trump more than oxygen? Yes, and I think he's going to say so very, very loudly. Trump hate is not a winning strategy. Trump hate is not how you get voters, very possibly like you and me. It doesn't work. It doesn't provide any value. You can't make it happen. And he may hate Trump, and I understand that he hates Trump. And he is going to get some people who also hate Trump. But it's not enough. You need more than that. You need a plan, you need a theory, you need a philosophy, and you need to show that you can actually win this thing. So if Chris Christie is going to take on Trump 24/7 and not take on Biden, it's a very, very bold mistake. And then you have, of course, jumping into this race, David Burgum. And you're like, I'm sorry, who? This guy, David Burgum right here. Check him out. Two-term governor of North Dakota, winning by landslides. He actually got into this in 2016, never having held political office before, and beat the guy who the Republicans wanted, and then beat the Democrat, then won re-election in 2020 by a large margin. He sold his software company, Great Plains Software, to Microsoft for $1.2 billion, and he has a tremendous number of investments going on. The guy has made some money. He did a lot of work with Microsoft. I think it's the current CEO. Is the current CEO of Microsoft who credits him with finding the soul of Microsoft. Pretty interesting thing. This is a guy no one knows anything about. You never heard the name until I brought it up right here, or it was brought up just the other day when you heard that he was going to announce, and then, of course, today when he did announce. There's nothing wrong with being a guy who doesn't have any name ID saying, I'm going to run for president. And that's the key thing to remember. It doesn't hurt to run for president. Now, for some people, they can truly screw it up. John Edwards screwed it up when he ran for president and decided to take the vice presidential slot on the ticket with John Kerry of the Democrats running in 2004. He totally destroyed his political future. He ruined it. That does indeed happen from time to time. But running for president usually helps. Running for president means more speaking engagements, and running for president means more books, and running for president means being able to have more of a voice and giving yourself an opportunity to find other opportunities in other positions, cabinet positions or other businesses. There's no harm in running for president. And that's why Mike Pence is doing it. And that's why Chris Christie is doing it. And that's why David Burgum is doing it. And that's why Tim Scott and Nikki Haley and former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, and others are doing it. That's why Vivek Ramaswamy is doing it and Larry Elder's doing it. What's the harm? The idea of running for president is extremely complicated business, except for the why. And the answer is, why not? Take Chris Christie as an example. Chris Christie is going to spend all day punching Donald Trump in the face. And I say that is not enough to get you voters, to get you over the finish line. But what if it is? I don't know. What if the sun rises in the west? And what if the moon is in a different orbit and Jupiter aligns with Mars? It's the age of Aquarius, people. What happens if that happens? Who am I to say that that's not possible? Of course it's possible. We've seen everything be possible. You know what they told us was impossible? That Trump could come down an escalator and then be president of the United States. Everything's possible. And by the way, Trump's win in 2016 and how close he came, regardless of all the issues, in 2020, shows you that anything's possible. So why shouldn't people believe it? Why not? It's not that complicated. Why not? Is there a path for former Vice President Mike Pence? I don't think so. I don't see the path. But this could happen and that could happen, and Trump and DeSantis cancel themselves out, and it turns out that America wants kind of normal and dull and totally vanilla. Well, Mike Pence can give you that. He'll also give you a 15-week abortion ban, which he said that he would favor. Of course he would. If you asked him if he would favor a 2-week abortion ban, he'd say the same thing. And people want to call him radical. He's radical, but Joe Biden isn't? Stop it. You understand that going after gas stoves was just step one. It's gas furnaces now that they're after. Just wait for it. It's coming. But yet somehow a guy who thinks babies are actually alive is radical. I don't know why they're running, because the conventional wisdom says there's no path. This is Trump or DeSantis. That's where it's at. But you run because why not? That's why they're doing it. Why not? Because there's nothing to lose. You won't lose money. You won't lose time. You won't lose opportunity. Why not? So we've got ourselves a crowded field, and it's not just Republicans. Democrats have got a crowded field because no matter how much they want to pretend Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doesn't exist, that guy exists. Oh, I'm not a fan. I did the interview, and he was super, super nice. It was a great interview, and thank you, everybody who watched it. Make sure you subscribe on Rumble, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe everywhere that we are. His policies are not policies that I'm in favor of by any stretch. It's the way he describes the policies. He doesn't come across with that Marxist hate, and so it's very appealing to a lot of people, even to people on the right, even to people in the center, who are listening to how he's saying it as opposed to what is actually being said. The what is actually being said is far more bothersome. The how it's being said, totally lovely right there. Then you have in this Communist Party, the People's Party, Cornel West is running. Cornel West is going to be so much fun. Oh, no, policy-wise, ridiculous. Again, another interview I'd love to do. But he is going to have so many good quips, so many interesting things to say in that regard. And there's a big question about whether or not he attracts a certain level of black vote. If you're Jim Clyburn, congressman from South Carolina, who gave the election to Joe Biden, gave him the Democratic nomination, man, you're working overtime. So it's going to be a fascinating 2024. People are going to try and drive you crazy with it. We're going to have a lot of fun with it and really break it down honestly and clearly, and make sure you subscribe and you're a part of what we do here. My thanks to Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org. Economic liberty, free speech. That is where it's at, guys. I appreciate you being here. And yeah, no doubt I did. I came to you today from a theme park. I'm blue on blue, too. It's actually not a bad look. It's kind of slimming. No. I'll work on that. I will catch you tomorrow, everyone. Y'all take care.